It's now, we're going to bring on stage some people to have a bit of a discussion. I've got Dr. Renee Willis, Patrick Coole and Tiffany Davey. Just by way of introduction, Dr. Renee is an Australian accredited veterinarian who also holds a doctorate of philosophy and animal welfare science and has delivered the shipboard Stockperson's course for LiveCorp for many years. Patrick Coole started out as a shipboard stocky before working in market for an exporter, delivering animal welfare training across the supply chain. With the introduction of SCAS, he's now consulting to the industry. Tiffany Davey grew up on a farm in central Wheatbelt and has been a stocky on long-haul ships for 6 years. Combining those roles was work with the Livestock Collective, which we've seen some of today. So please put your hands together and welcome these three icons of the industry.
Thanks, Terry.
And they're going to talk to you.
Maybe sing, we're still deciding.
Yeah, thanks, Terry, for the introduction. I think a lot of people here know us. And you'll know that with that background, this is a topic we're pretty passionate about. So today we're going to talk about caring for livestock on board livestock vessels, try to give you an idea of what conditions are like on board, but we're going to do that by telling the story from the perspective of the stocky, so from the stock person. So we'll walk through a voyage and we'll explain to you what the stocky's thinking about, and what the experience is for them through that process in ensuring the welfare of those animals. So thanks for the opportunity, LiveCorp, to talk about this. Is something we're really passionate about, and we appreciate the opportunity to shine a light on the stockies because they're such a important link in the chain. It's a bigger supply chain than just on board, but it's a really important component of it. So just to start, to give a bit of background, the stockies role has been around for a long time. So the Whalia chairman yesterday did a good job of talking about the history of the trade. And Australia has been trading livestock, by sea for a long time, over a century. And on all of those voyages, there are people on board those vessels looking after the health and welfare of the livestock, making sure they're fed and watered and cared for all the way through the journey. But the role has changed over the years and it's sort of developed. The fundamentals have stayed the same, caring for the animals, making sure they're fed and watered, that type of thing. But it has progressed over the years, and with technology and the development in the regulations, the role has sort of grown and there's been things added to it, which we'll go through. When LiveCorp was set up in the late 90s, one of the things I was set up to do was to develop training for people on board vessels to make sure they had the competency to deliver good outcomes, good animal welfare outcomes and good care on board. So they did that, they developed training, and then with the introduction of the first ASIL standards in the mid-2000s, that's when the requirement to have a LiveCorp accredited stock person on board vessels was introduced. And that sort of shifted things a little bit to more of a formal arrangement where there was formal accreditation to recognise the competency of the stockies. So again, that was through the LiveCorp training and accreditation program. So that was established. It's been running now for 20 years and it's evolved over time. So different people have delivered the course and there's been several updates to it over time as well. Renee and I just completed the most recent update to the course, so we updated the course materials and the delivery format, so some of the course materials moved online. But in general, the fundamentals have stayed the same. There's still a face-to-face component to the course, and that's intensive couple of days where they cover feed, handling, caring for animals on board, identifying and treating sick and injured animals, that type of thing. And then there's a theory component to it as well, which now is delivered through LiveCorp's through their learning hub online. Renee, you've been involved in the course a lot longer than I have. What have you seen change over the years with that?
I think there have been a lot of changes actually. I'm just thinking now I've been involved since 2015, so I think one of the biggest changes is the delivery of materials. You know, we sort of started with paper-based resources and PowerPoint slides, and certainly Blythe Callan, who used to facilitate the course for a long time, was handing out DVDs to the participants, and when they started to sort of look at them and wonder what to do with the DVD, we quickly sort of adapted, and COVID helped that adaptation along as well, putting everything online and making everything accessible to keep things going, keep people getting accredited, putting the materials all online, and now we've got a pretty good mixture of you know, face-to-face materials, online learning platforms, webinars, lots of good adjunct materials as well. I think one of the things that hasn't changed is how much LiveCorp work behind the scenes to put the course on as well. We've got a bit of a nod to Paula up there, who's always working really hard to keep the course rolling. And a picture of Imogen from probably around about the time when she did her first Stockperson's course. I think she's completed about 10 since then. So listen to Blythe and Richard and Byron and I tell the same jokes over and over again for 10 courses is certainly pretty onerous. But I think as well, the Stockperson's role, it's certainly a role that's a really interesting starting point in industry for a lot of people. A lot of people stay in the role and get really, really good at it and hone their skills and become, you know, quite specialist. And a lot of people move to other areas of the industry as well. So as we're in this sort of session after lunch, we wanted to get people moving and have a look at who we're talking to in the room. So.
And also on Monday, I did a speech and 2 people fell asleep during my speech. So we've added this in. So just to get everyone on their feet. So if everyone can please stand up. What we want to do, we've got a few questions here we're going to walk through. And what we're aiming for here is we know there are people in the room that are far more experienced than we are. So I'm going to ask a series of questions. If you answer in the affirmative, we want you to stay on your feet. If you answer no, you can sit down, and we're going to try and whittle out and identify who's the most experienced person here in the room, and you'll get a little prize at the end. There'll be someone from LiveCorp to come around. So, if you can, stay on your feet. If you have worked in a set of yards with livestock, we're starting with the easy ones. Have worked in a set of yards with livestock. You're good, Nanny. You can stay. Stay standing if you have been on a livestock vessel. Well, that eliminated a few.
Yeah, getting a few.
Okay. And stay standing if you have completed the Stockies accreditation course. That's wiped out a few.
Oh, that sorted them out.
Okay, that's round 1. You've survived. Into round 2, Tiff.
Round 2, stay standing if you have ever been the head stock person on a voyage. Oh, we're narrowing them down. Who's going to win the free Mentos? Done more than 20 voyages? Oh.
I'm just wondering why Gabby Robson's not standing up.
Okay. Sailed through the...
Suez Canal.
Oh, we might have a
Oh,
tiebreaker.
this is good. We've got Dr. Adrian Baker, we've got John Cunnington, and we've got Brownie.
What about doing a voyage from another country other than Australia?
Oh,
Congratulations.
we have a winner!
Chicken dinner!
We actually feature Brownie in our PowerPoint with some tips, so that'll be really great.
Yeah, we might get him up on stage to give the rest of the talk now. Here you go, Brownie. So we, as Tiff just mentioned, we did ask for a bit of input. We sent a bit of a survey around to people to help with the presentation, put some photos together and some input. So we've got some tips and tricks that'll come up on the PowerPoints as we go through. So the journey normally starts with preparing to leave home and joining the vessel. Often that can be either really, really last minute, things can happen pretty quickly in this industry, or you can just be sort of waiting and you know, the ship's coming alongside and then it's passing inspections and things. So, and then everything happens in a hurry in the last minute. But it's pretty good to be prepared. We've certainly all been caught off guard as newbie stockies. We've got a picture of the different trade routes up there, and there's certainly different things that you encounter and different weather along the way. I know the first time I sailed out of southern Australia, I'd packed clothes that were more appropriate for a Darwin to Indo voyage and got caught out pretty quickly in some freezing cold conditions. The cabins, we've got to often get asked about what the accommodation's like. Probably a nod to Vroon here with some pretty tidy cabins on Vroon ships, but yeah, usually pretty reasonably comfortable on board. I think Tiff's probably the one to hand to here, being prepared for anything that might come come to you when you're on board.
Is Mike Gordon here? If you ask him about the highlight of his export career, what it won't be is when he had a bunch of female stock people stuck out at sea over COVID, calling him all the time because they were bored and crying. So yeah, there is a lot of things unexpected about being an onboard stock person, and COVID, a perfect definition of that. Lots of us got on at sea. I know Adrian and I, we got on a voyage in March. We didn't get home and out of quarantine until September, and there's lots in the room who were bobbing around the oceans. So no, lots of unexpected things.
So once the stockies join the vessel, so they're on board the vessel now, the ship's squeaky clean and it doesn't smell yet. There's often a short period of time from when they get on the vessel to when the first truck turns up. So they drop their bags, they're off to meet the chief officer and the bosun if they don't already know them. Establish a connection with the crew, because the crew will do most of the animal handling during the loading, and the crew have been on the vessel again and again for repeat shipment, so they really understand the systems and how things work. And then very quickly they get down onto deck and they double check that everything's set up. So the crew have already set up the vessel ready for loading, so all the pens and the gates and things should be set up if they've done the job well, which they normally have. The stocky will go down and check over all that, and then they'll go through the plan that they've been given by the exporter. So the exporter has given them instructions, they've given them a load plan, so everyone's on the same page about what is about to happen and what they can expect to receive. And then shortly after, the first truck turns up. And normally when that first truck rolls in, your heart rate picks up a bit, because that's when things get real, because animals are about to walk on board. And when that first animal walks on board, that's when the stocky's responsibilities for the animals begin. So animal one, when it walks on, that's when they're in charge and become responsible for those animals. The exporter has spent weeks, if not months, preparing the consignment. So the consignment of animals has been in a quarantine yard. The exporter's been through them with a fine-tooth comb to make sure every animal that's turning up for load is suitable for export. So it's fit to load, it's the right animal to go on the journey. So the stocky's got a certain amount of confidence that they know the animal's coming in, it's a good clean consignment of animals that are suitable to come on board. But it's a busy time, there's a lot going on. There's truck drivers, stevedores, ship's crew, the stock people themselves, but the ship's probably also loading fodder and water and other provisions. There's a lot of people moving around, and the stocky has to be across all of that, and at the same time thinking about the animals, as they're walking on board. So making sure they're coming on calm and efficient. Nice smooth loading is what you want. You don't want it stop-start. You want to make sure the animals get on board and bedded down into their pens, into the correct pens, the right number of animals into the right pens, to set you up for the voyage ahead. So by the end of the loading process, you've got a boat full of livestock, they're all in their homes, they're all in the correct place, and you're set up for success into that voyage.
Bit of a nod to Artie there as well. We grabbed him yesterday for a quote to put into the talk, and I think he's probably down on the wharf actually loading a vessel at the moment, so got it from the horse's mouth there.
So as Pat mentioned, on top of everything when it comes to loading, we're looking at the livestock. The type of livestock that you've got on board will be a reflection of how your voyage will go. So there's a broad range. Every single boat is different. There's different breeds, temperaments, handling experiences, and knowing what's coming and being prepared. As soon as you get the load plan, we will identify any that might need special attention, whether it be New Zealand lambs or buffaloes. And your skill sets will be tailored to the different breeds and classes of livestock. The routine, once we're on board, it's actually very consistent while at sea. Your days are based around the routine of the livestock when they're feeding, but also the existing routine that the crew work to, so set meal times, for example. Some ships, you've got to be showered, you've got to be in a collared shirt and enclosed shoes, so you might go and do your less dirty decks before breakfast to be clean for breakfast. So we're guests on someone else's home. There is always going to be a rhythm. You wake up, you check stock, and don't tell any of the exporters in the room, but it's actually a really, really good job when everything's going well. You've got your headphones in, you're walking the decks, you're around the livestock. And although your access is limited and to internet is limited and you go through withdrawals in the first couple of days, you sort of adjust to it, and then you end up reading like weird little books that stockies have left behind on the ships before you.
It is pretty enjoyable. I think we've got some footage there of it must be day 4 or day 5 of a voyage when all the cattle have settled in and everything's travelling smoothly, and you know it is very rewarding just to be walking around and working with animals all day. It's great. I'll also mention I don't normally look quite so jovial when I'm doing a post-mortem, but when you hand your phone to a crew member to take photos of lesions, you soon realise that they'll be taking photos of like the rest of the crew and selfies and photos of you, and so yeah, you can get a bit caught out with interactions with the crew. But hospital pens, when we're on board, we actually have a really good capacity to provide individual care to animals, and certainly working as a vet on board and working with stockies, there's a real art to your observation skills. You really get to hone in your skills and find animals that aren't coping with the pen environment. You've got a good capacity to handle those animals carefully, take them out of the pens, put them into the designated hospital pen spaces. As a vet, I always find it really rewarding to be able to give a high level of care. My time's already paid for on the vessel. The medications are already available to me. You know, I can revisit that animal daily. It's a bit of a difference when you're doing farm work. You might see an animal once and then, you know, rely on a few follow-up phone calls or whatever. But as a vet working on board, you can treat the animal and give it a high level of repeated care. Another benefit of the connectivity that Leonard mentioned, you know, you've got a really good ability to communicate with the veterinary team or colleagues, or stockies will often send, me as a vet will often send me pictures of animals or footage of animals that they're dealing with. So our ability to provide care on board is pretty high level these days.
And so once you're through the voyage and getting to the end and you're starting to think about discharge, so you're trying to set the animals up and prepare them as best you can, and it depends on what type of voyage you're doing and whether they're on discharge weight or something else. That'll sort of determine the strategy leading into the discharge. And then the discharge, again, it's similar to what I was just talking about with the loading. It's a hive of activity. It's a bit different to loading in Australia. The loading part's generally a bit quicker than the unloading. In Australia, we've got big trucks and you get through it pretty quick. In a lot of the destination countries, you've got small trucks and you'll load many trucks to unload a vessel, and it'll take quite a while. And it's a point where you sort of hand over, as a stocky, you're handing over responsibility of the animals to the importer. So the importer's keen to get them. You and the crew, you know, you may have been working for the last 7, 10 days straight, or if you're on a long haul voyage, could have been doing multiple sequential weeks of work. So everyone's pretty keen to get things over and done with, and you're looking towards the finishing line, but you've got that really important component here in the discharge that you've got to get through before you get there. I think those fellas down in the bottom corner aren't looking quite so keen. There's always a hurry up and wait for the last trucks as well, and time for a nap by the ramp. Yeah, that's right. And so when you're unloading the vessel, similar to loading, the animals are in their groups. So there may be, say, several importers, so several clients taking livestock off the vessel, and each of those may have, you know, a steer line, a heifer line. Someone may have some breeders in there. They're all in their lines, and they need to stay in their lines. They need to stay separated. And so that's part of the stocky's role, is to oversee that. So there's a lot of moving parts there going on. They're trying to keep an eye on the handling as well. Again, the crew is doing most of the handling. The stocky will jump in and help where they need to. But generally it's a crew, so you're keeping an eye out. So like this bloke in the video, you'd be keeping a very close eye on him to see what he's doing. And then while all of that's going on, if you have a multi-day discharge, which a lot of them are, you've got animals on board the vessel that are still going to be there for a couple of days while the rest of them are getting discharged. So you're thinking about discharge and everything that's happening there. And then you're also thinking about just regular care for the other animals that are still on board. They still need feed, water, inspections, identifying sick and injured animals, all of that routine stuff that you've been doing during the voyage that continues during discharge. So it's a busy time for the stocky, and when they get towards the end of it, it's a great relief. And when you do see that last animal walk off, it's a big relief. It's the end of your responsibility for the animals. There's some more responsibilities that Renee will touch on. But when it walks off, the vessel's then got no reason to stick around. They want to get back to Australia or wherever the next port is to load, and often they want to throw the ropes within 30 minutes or an hour. So if you're smart, you've done your washing and you've got a clean set of clothes and you rush back to your cabin to get ready to go. And if you're not smart, you're going to walk into the hotel lobby smelling like crap.
Unfortunately, I'm normally that person who walks into the hotel lobby smelling bad. But it's often because I've got to finish up the reporting as well. So I'll often spend that last sort of period of time while the ship's preparing to get away to sea again, running around, making sure I've got all of my information, all of the shore counts, all of the ship's counts, making sure that my reporting matches the master's report, making sure I've got all of the information I need, tidying up the rest of the vet kit and the remaining medications on board. There is a lot of reporting involved in both the veterinary role on board and the stock person's role as well. That's definitely something in recent years. It's probably made the stock person's role a little less interesting at times, but they certainly have got a high level of taking observations throughout the day, reporting those observations to fulfill regulatory requirements, and also just to communicate with the exporter so that everybody knows what's going on board and how the voyage is progressing.
I think it's worth noting too, as well as the formal requirements and research in recent years, we've also been recording and sharing a lot of information and content to share with the broader community. We've heard a lot about it. We heard a lot about the work the Livestock Collective does, but we're making sure that we're sharing the work that we're doing internally within the live export industry, ensuring our normal, what we see every day, and that's healthy animals on ships.
And we thought we'd just touch on the in-market component, because this is not obviously part of the voyage itself, but the whole process all feeds into each other. So sometimes a stocky is lucky enough to be able to get off the boat and then follow the consignment through in market and see the animals, bedded down and into their new homes. And it's a great way for them to understand the flow-on effects of what they're doing on board the vessel has for the consignment once it gets into market, because how they manage the animals on board and identifying sick and injured animals and the way they're feeding the animals on board, that all plays a role in setting the animals up. A lot of them often go into a feedlot environment, and so their feed performance, how well they adapt to the new environment, a lot of that is impacted by how the animals are treated on board and how they're delivered into those feedlots. So if they're lucky, they get to follow them through. I was very lucky myself and got that opportunity, and that can often also lead into other roles in the industry. It's a bit of a pathway for development, and it's just a fantastic way for them to get a holistic idea of, they're one part of the supply chain, but all of it feeds in to each other.
It's also pretty incredible the hospitality that we're shown when we visit these feedlot facilities and importing markets. I've often had a formal sit-down lunch or a really nice morning tea at a feedlot. It's so different. I've never really enjoyed a formal lunch at a feedlot in Australia. It's a bit of a cultural difference, and it's certainly the hospitality of our trade partners is pretty legendary. We had some pretty enjoyable social occasions at feedlots and abattoirs overseas.
It's also really rewarding seeing who we're feeding. As an industry, we go on and on and on about it, how Australia feeds the world, but we get to go and see at the wet markets or the abattoirs who we're actually feeding. So it is an incredible part of the role as well. So life of a stocky, it's an incredibly unique job. You're at sea, you're sailing around the world with responsibilities that go far beyond the daily livestock care. The livestock are always the priority. I think that goes without saying. Their welfare, their health, their behaviour, it's, you know, it affects everything and shapes that we do. But it also requires patience, an open mind, strong sense of adventure. You're working in an environment where there's a diversity of languages, religions, cultures, and you're a guest on someone's home. So we're at sea, these people are at sea, the crew, for months on end, so we're a guest in their home. And travel, it takes you to unexpected places and countries. I think often becoming a conversation the travel was the huge conversation we had while preparing this presentation, all the places we've been.
Yeah, we were sort of putting together the slides and looking through our phones and getting pictures, and probably told more war stories than actually preparing for the talk. But it's a bit, we did have a couple of karaoke videos that we thought we'd share with you, but then we preserved your ears. But it does feel a bit like karaoke up here with the microphones.
I think every stock person, there's the things without saying, and you'll have your karaoke song. What's yours, Brownie? Oh, I reckon he looks like a Celine Dion man, to be honest. But you're at sea a long periods of time away from your friends and your family, and but despite the challenges, if you love livestock, there is really quite no job like it. You know, you're there immersed in literally watching the livestock every single day, and because of the relationships we form at sea with the crew, it is another thing that's really rewarding is knowing, and I know we invest a lot in training with them and working with them, but it's really rewarding. You get a WhatsApp message from a fella who's bought 2 dairy cows back home, and he's reaching out to say, "Oh, I'm doing this." We know that we are having an influence on the way handling of livestock around the world.
Yeah, you've also got to be keen on climbing stairs and walking, because you can certainly do quite a few miles. It's we've all made a few friends at sea, and oh, we got well, we've got one more slide. No,
right,
2.
you can do one more.
A few dietary challenges that we've come across during our voyages. You can often have some pretty amazing meals. If there's a party or a barbecue, someone's birthday, there's a few challenging ones as well. But we've all got some great travel experiences from around the world, and ending up in tourist destinations with your ship clothes, so wearing your cattle livestock handling clothes. Well,
I think it's full of adventures, exciting and enjoyable role, but at the same time, it's a role that has a lot of responsibility. There is a lot of pressure, and it has a big impact on both commercial and welfare outcomes. So I want to give a round of applause to the stockies in the room. Brownie, I don't think Fee made it, but I know there's plenty of them here because they really do an incredible work, and it's great to be able to recognise them.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hurry you up. Oh, that's okay. Thanks very much. So thank you very much for that rundown on the work of a stockie, and that it is interesting to see it by people who actually live and work there and actually do the job rather than talk about it. So thanks very much to all of you.